Hi, welcome to your first class at HMDH Academy. Your first class is T-bottom construction. T-bottom construction combines three main elements of a bag: the bottom, gusset, and front and back. From this basic design technique comes hundreds of styles you see on the market today. For those of you who are totally new to the craft, keep your first sketch simple so that you can get comfortable with the pattern making and construction process. For those who have more experience in sewing and have some basic pattern making skills, go for it and push your creativity. Pay close attention. The most important element in pattern making is notching. Notching allows you to line up and place each part of the bag according to the placement on your pattern. The quality of your work will depend on your sewing skills, tools, and attention to details. Think about your design, sketch it out, and start the class. We see you after you finished your pattern.
Hi, this is Linda. I'm going to teach you how to make the basic T-bottom tote. And this is an example of a T-bottom tote. Mine will be very similar. I may not have this seam here, and I actually am going to add a pocket, and it's going to have fabric with some leather trim on it. And here's my lining. So, but basically it's this type of pattern. Okay, so the first thing you do is score your paper. I already scored my paper. And I'm going to straighten the top edge. You pin like you do with all the patterns. Okay, so that's, you have your top straight edge that you start to work from. And then to figure out your dimensions, I'm going to make it a similar dimension to this, which is about 8 inches by 8 inches. It's like basically a square. So what I do is, to get that front back pattern, I measure down the 8 inches from the top. And pin, but you can make it any dimension you want, but I'm just doing like a medium-sized tote. Okay, and basically, actually, I'm going to first do a pencil line right here, just indicate where the bottom is. Okay, and what we're doing here also to let you know is we're making the master pattern, and then I'll show you how to do the outside. Okay, so it's 8 inches down, and then since it's 8 inches across, I fold and measure over 4 inches on each side. Pin all the way through to the other side. And then I'm going to draw the line between the two pins. Okay, so this represents really the front of the bag, and the reason it's called a T-bottom is because it actually your pattern actually looks like an upside down T but you'll see. So this pattern will also have the sides and the bottom attached to it, and I'm thinking I'm making it I'll make it about 4 inches wide or deep. So you fold your paper and measure down. Actually, you divide that in half. So you measure down half of that, which is 2 inches, and pin. Open your paper, and then you can draw the line at the bottom. And then since it's 4 inches wide, your gusset will be the same dimension. So you measure 2 inches out from that outside line on the front. Pin hopefully I pin all the way through because you want to get to the other side of the paper. Okay. Draw that pencil line. Actually, I can draw this line all the way down to show you that what the T-bottom looks like. Okay, and then the other side, the same thing. Right now I'm drawing the pencil line, but actually you can be cutting this line already. But this is just to show you how you get that shape. Okay, so that I'll cut it out. But what it is there's the front and back, and the bottom and the gusset sides, and so you'll have two of these, and it's the reason that's why it's called a T-bottom, because it is like a big T. So now you just cut this out. You can fold. Cut through both layers, and then you open the pattern so you can cut between these two pins. And then I'm cutting this little square out, and then you'll have the basic T-bottom. Get through that whole layers. My knife is dull, I think. Okay, and this shows you basically what the T-bottom is. That's why it's called a T-bottom tote. I'll actually score these parts that are going to be folded to show you how it comes together. So these pieces will be folded like this, and so this represents half of your bag. You cut two of these, and that's why they call it a T-bottom tote. And then when you do a bottom piece that will be sewn before you sew the whole thing together. And the way you do that is take a piece of pattern paper. I think this is already straightened on one side. I know that it's 4 inches wide, so I measure from the top 4 inches and pin. And then it's 8 inches wide, so I measure 4 inches across from this. I fold a paper, measure 4 inches from that fold line. Okay, and then I cut between those two pins. Okay, and that's your bottom panel. So what that will do is that you'll cut two of the, well, this is your master, and your outside, again, is always the 3/8 inch bigger than your master. If you're doing leather, you could make it like a 1/2 inch if you're doing fabric. And then this will be the bottom piece. So you'll have two of these pieces and one of these, and you also always label your pattern. So this is a T-bottom tote, master, and it's actually your front, back, sides, and bottom, really, because this is the front and back. That's that's the bottom, and these are the gussets, which is all on one piece. And then you label your other little master here, T-bottom tote. And this is the bottom. And you only cut one. This one you'll cut two. And as always, you'll be using this pattern, your master pattern, for any of your stays that you put in there, because I'm going to put some backing in because this is kind of thin material. And basically that's the beginning of your T-bottom tote, and I'll go to the next step in a little while. Thank you. Okay, so we did the master of the T-bottom tote, and now what I'm going to do is the outside pattern. So I'm taking another piece of pattern paper, flattening it out with my straight edge. You want to start with a pretty flat piece of paper, always. So now I'm just going to score the paper in approximately the middle. I hope I have enough paper. Yeah, I do. Okay, score the paper. Okay, straighten the top edge. Pin all the way through. I try to hold my awl straight up and down as much as possible because it makes a more accurate measurement. Open it up. Cut between the pins. Okay, yeah, your outside pattern, the seam allowance, I'm going to make it a 3/8 seam allowance, but you may want to do 1/2 inch with fabric if you want, but I still like using a 3/8 seam allowance. So to start with that, what I do is I measure 3/8 inch down from the top and pin. Whoops. 3/8. Open your paper. Draw your pencil line between the two pins. Okay, and then you take your master and you just line it up. You actually should have, I forgot to put my little notches here. You really should notch your pattern in the center so that you can line everything up. Just a real small notch. Okay, so that also allows you to line up your fold because you'll be able to see it through that little notch. Okay, so you line up that fold to the top. Well, actually to the seam allowance line. Okay, and basically, and then the bottom too. And what you basically just trace your master from there, and you can just follow it all the way around. Okay, and then I'm just going to measure out the 3/8 all the way around. So I can fold it and do the sides. Three-eighths from here and 3/8 from here. Okay, and I can cut all the way through to both sides. Okay. And then I'm going to measure 3/8 from the bottoms of the master that you just traced. Pin all the way through. Open your pattern, and then you cut between those two pins. Okay, and then the seam allowance here, you do this. You measure out the 3/8 from either side of this. I'm going to actually draw a little pencil line so you'll be able to see where it comes together. There's 3/8 that way and the 3/8 this way. So I'll just cut that little square out. Okay, so now you have your outside pattern for your T-bottom tote. Yep, and also I do the notching of the middle. It's really good for alignment when you're lining everything up. Okay, and I label the pattern. This is the T-bottom tote. Front, back, side, and then it's the outside. We put OS for the outside, and you cut 2. Okay, and then the outside pattern for the bottom is just making this 3/8 inch bigger also. So I'm going to cut a piece of paper. Score your paper. Straighten the top edge. Okay, and then I fold it again, and I'm going to measure the 3/8 down and pin. Open your paper and draw your pencil line for your seam allowance. Okay, and then you're taking your T-bottom bottom and aligning this up with the fold line. And like the other pattern, you just trace it all the way around. Trace your master. Okay, so you have that, and then fold it back up, and then you're just going to measure 3/8 all the way around this pattern. Not measure, but I mean you're going to cut it at that point. So you can open your paper. I only really needed to pin it once, but I did 2 holes there. So you cut between the pin lines, or pin holes. Okay. And then on the sides, just measure 3/8. Cut between the pins. Okay, and that's this is the outside pattern. Let me notch it also. And also label it. It's the T-bottom, bottom, and it's outside, and you only cut 1. And so see, this is the master, and that's the outside pattern. And I should have notched the master too. Just a little notch. And speaking of notching, you can also, you really, like Richard usually notches where the seam allowance is. You can do that also. I'll show you how to do that. You can draw your pencil line all the way over, and then you'll see where the seam allowance should be, and then you can notch it right there on that little line. So while you're sewing, you know exactly your seam allowance, even though your machine may have that indicated on its on the panel where you're sewing. Okay, so that's notched too. So when you're sewing, you know exactly where your seam is going to be and where lines up. And you really can do it on all your pattern pieces. Also maybe indicate where you're gonna, when you do sew this together, you'll have to put a notch right here too when you sew it together. But I'll show you how this gets put together. After the next step would be actually to cut out your pieces and then also back your material if you have to back it, which I have to do. So I'll be doing that next. Okay. So I'm going to now make the lining pattern. The lining pattern is basically the same as the outside pattern, but it's 1/16 smaller. So what you do, I've already straightened my pattern paper. I'm going to score it and straighten the top edge. So since it's going to be a 1/16 smaller all the way around, I basically, you're just taking, whoops, I'm using my outside pattern, and what you can do is pin it. So you can know what your 16th is. Put a little pinhole right there. A 16th into the pattern. Okay, so you take your pattern and you have that little pinhole so you can line it up at the top of your pattern paper. Okay. And then what you can do is pin right through the pattern paper to the other side so you know where your 16th is. Try to get through. You can just do it on one side and then fold it over. So actually what I could do is fold this like this. And I'm just pinning right through the pattern paper. Okay, and then I just cut between those pins. Okay, so you cut between those pins and make sure I cut straight, perpendicular to that line. Okay, and then you also indicate your seam allowance, which is, for me, is a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And I can just pencil in that line. You do that all the way around. I don't need to do the whole thing. And then you also notch, as usual. You do your notching, and you can do your notching for your seam allowance here also. Okay, and then on my lining, I will have a inside pocket, so I can indicate that on this pattern too. I just measure down at least like 1.5 inches or 2 inches down. I'll make it like 1.5 inches down from this seam allowance. Okay, pin it. And I usually use about like a 5-inch zipper, or maybe 6 inches I'll use zipper. So I measure 3 inches from each direction. Or just put this is the line for your zipper, where your zipper pocket will be. And then you also label it. You have to label the whole thing. So it's a T-bottom tote, lining, and then cut two. And this is the lining zipper pocket. Okay, and then you don't need to, this is the whole piece for your lining. You just have 2 of these. You don't need to do any bottom piece because this actually makes up the bottom also. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is make the pattern for the little appliques that go on the outside. Take a little piece of pattern paper, and the appliques, well, I'll just make them about, well, cut. Maybe I shouldn't get it. I'm back. I'm going to now work on the strap pattern, and then after we do the strap pattern, we'll do the applique pattern. The straps are about, they don't have to be this long, but I think I'm going to make them shorter than this. These were about 22 inches, but I think I'm going to make them more like 20 inches. So you make sure you have enough pattern paper. So here's enough paper here. Okay, and I score in the middle and straighten out. You really should cross score. So actually that's what I'm going to do is do the middle fold, okay, and then go about in the middle of this and pin. So I'm doing what we call a cross score. When you want something really symmetrical, that's what you do. So I'm going to score between these 2 pins. You got to really hold down your straight edge really good because it'll move around. So. Okay, so now you have a fold either direction because you're going to want to make this, really straight. And I'm going to make the strap about, I think I'll make it 3/4 of an inch. So I'll measure half of that would be 3/8. I believe, yeah, 3/8. Yeah, so I measure 3/8 from the center and pin. You can actually open it up and pin it right on the exact same spot over here. But I can fold it. I fold it, and then when I cut this, I'll have 3/4 of an inch wide. Turn it this way and cut it. So that's the length of your strap. That's the basic size of your strap. If you want it a 3/4 inch strap, and I was going to make them 20 inches. So I fold and measure 10 inches from the center, and pin. Okay. You can fold and then pin through there. Fold over. And then you're cutting between those 2 pins, and then you'll have your strap. Oh, slipped a little bit there. Try to make it really straight across. Okay, so now my strap is 3/4 of an inch by 20 inches, and then you label your strap pattern. Gives the T-bottom tote, strap, master, and you're going to be cutting 4 of these. So you say cut 4. Okay, and then the next piece would be the little applique, and this applique you can make it any shape you want, but I like to make a little curved piece. So I just take a piece of paper and fold it, and it's already straightened out. So the applique, I'm going to make it, see the strap, it has to cover the strap, so I need to make it at least, I think I'll make it an inch and a quarter wide. So and I'll just measure, say, an inch and a quarter. So half of that is 3/4 of an inch, I believe. So I pin it 3/4 of an inch from that fold line, and then pin a little bit down this way. And I'm going to make it about 1 inch and 3/4 deep. So I'll measure down 1 inch and 3/4 down. Or indicate your pencil line right there. Okay, I actually can really just cut right there at this point. Okay, and then from here, I was going to make it like a little rounded thing. So you could take your French curve or something that's round and create your that curve, or whatever shape you want. I lost my pencil. My good pencil. Oh, here's one. Okay, I like using these mechanical pencils because then you don't have to sharpen them. And they're like, then you get a really precise line. So there's a little shape that I made there. Cut. And I don't really like that too much, so let me kind of shave off a little bit to the shape I want. You can freehand this, or trace a shape that you like. I just want like a little bit of a curve there. Maybe I'll make it more of a round thing though. So take it a little more off of there. Okay, so that's my basic applique master. It's a little rough there. Let me cut that off. Okay, so you label that one also. This is applique. Well, it's a T-bottom tote, applique, master, and you're going to cut 4 of those. Okay, and then for these you also will do your outside pattern, which, like I did before, is the 3/8 inch all the way around for these 2 pieces.
Wow, that was a great tutorial by Linda. Now that you have sketched your bag and made your pattern, give some thought to the materials you will be using in the next part of this lesson. Linda will be assembling and prep the various elements or parts of the bag for stitching. If you have a home sewing machine, it's very important to pay close attention to thickness. You will be turning material to create clean edges, which will create thickness. You will also be adding body to the materials so they flow and stand the way you want. Watch the next part of this lesson to see the types of materials you will need to learn to use. What goes into the bag is just as important as the design. This is where the quality is added. With that said, back to Linda.